you so much for that, Carrie. And again, my name is Katina Crum.
Katina, I think you're muted.
Can you hear me now?
We were hearing you, Katina.
Oh, okay. I have noticed that there have been some delays in the video, so in advance, I apologize if any of the information cuts out during this meeting. Of course, technology is limited, though very helpful. So with that, I'll go ahead and start to discuss the additional information about the specifics of this project opportunity. So what you'll see here is our project schedule. It is important to remember that sometimes these schedules are subject to change. So with projects that have a lot of moving components, certain things such as supply chain issues or otherwise could potentially delay these schedules. But for the most part, we always try to do our best to remain on track for everything. So we're currently having our artist informational session. We're in November here. An important thing to note is that if any questions come up that you would like to ask us, be sure to ask any questions before December 2nd. Again, December 2nd is the deadline for questions and inquiries about this opportunity. Another important deadline is December 16th. That is the application deadline. Be sure to submit your application before December 16th at 5 p.m. We anticipate running the selection panel process for this opportunity specifically in January, and in February, we will be working to obtain approval for the artist roster for these project opportunities. And then ideally here in spring of 2023, we will be looking to begin the process of executing contracts and hopefully start moving forward with a lot of these projects as the opportunities come to fruition. An important thing to note is the project budget. Since we are looking at several different opportunities that this roster will feed into, we will have a range of different projects with a variety of budgets. Typically, the total project budgets will range from 100K to 500K. The overall project budgets will depend on the final concept designs for each park location. So there will be some variation depending on the specifics of the location and the art opportunities that will be identified. With that in mind, the artwork budget that focuses on artist design fees, the research process, community engagement, artist insurance, material samples, engineering, construction, fabrication, and additional information such as travel, that budget for the artist component will not exceed 75K. So as far as the scope of work, it's a really wonderful opportunity. So once the artists have been qualified for this roster, the artists that are a part of that final roster will then be eligible for several park projects over the next 2 years. So we have already pre-identified a number of opportunities that will be coming up. And should any additional opportunities arise that aren't mentioned within this opportunity, artists within this roster may be considered for those opportunities as well. A lot of these projects are still in the early stages, and this is great because it will actually allow the artists to work collaboratively with those project teams. And this is an opportunity to integrate these art projects specifically into the sites and identify needs that may be arising from the surrounding communities and the very people that are actually using the location. So it's a wonderful opportunity to really collaborate and work with the local communities to identify art projects that could be very beneficial to the area. Specific art goals will be established as we work to develop the concept designs for each of these opportunities. Again, it's early stages, so it's a great time to really start identifying those goals. And the scopes of work will include a variety of different opportunities, which may be functional artwork, site-based standalone sculptures, or even integrated design enhancements that could be more suitable for two-dimensional design approaches as well. So the first project opportunity I would like to speak about is the Eastlake Park opportunity. So one element of this is that it does have a community center, a gymnasium, an outdoor pool, baseball field, tennis courts, and an amphitheater. As we go through these projects, you will notice they are in a variety of locations, which is great. And an artist will be selected to work with the design team to integrate the public art. We're really thinking about the people who are using that specific park area and what sort of improvements can be made. So an improvement consideration would be, for instance, for the aquatic areas within this park. Additional features that may be included for this opportunity could include artist-designed security fencing or even a mosaic tile mural. Please keep in mind these are examples. We definitely encourage artists who are working in a variety of applications to consider applying for this opportunity. The next opportunity is actually El Reposo Park. We'll go back there one slide. So with El Reposo Park, this park specifically contributes to a community center. It's the South Mountain Community Center. An outdoor pool. It has the pool, Roosevelt Pool, tennis courts, walking trail, and picnic areas. So once again, this specific project really will be focusing on the South Mountain Community Center. And the potential art enhancements could include landscape design, seating, fencing at the community center entry plaza, or even interior two-dimensional artwork. So again, this is an opportunity for artists who are looking to get a foothold into public art to apply. If you have two-dimensional work, that certainly doesn't prevent you from applying. The next project is Paradise Valley Park project. Similar approach, we really are looking for artists who can communicate with the community and the design team to identify potential improvements. So as we are in the early stages of these projects, a lot of these enhancements are still yet to be identified, but it really is a wonderful opportunity to collaborate and identify the specific needs within the community area. This park features a skate park, an outdoor pool, another community center, and even a playground. So there are certainly a number of opportunities that could arise. The next park is Sueño Park, and excuse me if I pronounced that incorrectly. So this is another project that is still really in the early stages. We are working to identify the specific enhancements for this park. The features of the park include a basketball court, a soccer field, an exercise course, and even picnic areas. The next park is Surrey Park. So this specific park, again, similar to the other ones, is in the development stages. The amenities feature a picnic area, ramadas, and a playground. So once the artist begins work, again, through that community process, we'll really be able to identify the specific needs and enhancements that can be provided through this process. With that being said, I'd like to begin talking about the specific submission materials. So in order to apply, you will be required to submit a statement of intent. Keep in mind, it's a 400-word limit. And I do want to note that it is important to think of this as a job application and utilize this in a way that is really succinctly communicating why you're interested in this opportunity and highlight any relevant experience you may have. One important feature that you can include is in a following slide here, we'll actually be talking about the specific criteria that the judges on the selection panel will use to review these application portfolios. So be sure to keep that criteria in mind, think about these opportunities, and really curate your application to present yourself as a candidate for this specific opportunity, taking note of how your actual application really emphasizes why you are qualified for the project in relationship to those criteria. The second element is your resume or CV. There is a 3-page limit. Just go ahead and include your current professional resume, include your artist's name, the address, email, and phone number. So you want to make sure that your contact information is up to date. If you are submitting as an artist team, then that resume information will just be one, and it should include the accumulation of all of the team members as one document. And the next element is your images. So we really recommend that you specially curate your images for this specific opportunity. Make sure you follow the format requirements. The images do need to be in JPEG format. If you have additional questions about submitting, we do have guidelines on publicartist.org as far as sizing, and we have additional resources in this specific presentation where we'll review how to submit your application through publicartist.org. So next, I will go ahead and talk about tips for how to apply, or excuse me. First, we'll go ahead and talk about the criteria that I mentioned before. So again, think about this criteria as you are curating your application. So 50% of the application will be judged based on the demonstrated artistic quality of previously completed artwork. 25% of the scoring will be considering the potential to create an impactful design for these public projects. The work sample should show the potential for you as a finalist for this opportunity and how you could potentially integrate the art into the area and even highlight your experience collaborating with community members. 25% will specifically focus on that experience. So community engagement. And again, if you are a little more new to public art, there may be other experiences that could relate to that. For instance, if you are a studio artist and you've implemented workshops or otherwise, we really just want to hear about your experiences collaborating with others. And again, doesn't necessarily have to be art related. You can find the opportunity listed at phoenix.gov.arts. It is also listed on our website, publicart.org, where you will be applying. I really do recommend that you open the original PDF, which contains all of the information about the pre-qualified artist roster call to artists. So be sure to review that document if you can before you submit. Pay very close attention to the scope of work, the project description, evaluation and selection process, and any response information. It's important that you follow the instructions as closely as you can. We certainly don't want anything to be submitted improperly or risk disqualification of the application. So be sure to read through that RFQ before applying, and also take note of the transparency policy and the terms and conditions within that document. And again, as I mentioned before, the photographs of your work are extremely important. A lot of the selection panel members will be really looking at that artwork within the images, and you want to make sure that you're highlighting your best feature as well as possible. So ways to do that would be to avoid busy backgrounds. We certainly don't recommend that you pose with your art. You really want to focus on the specific art within your portfolio, and do not collage together multiple images into a photograph, because that can specifically be distracting, and we really want to be able to see as much detail within the photograph as possible. Here's an example of an artwork that has been professionally photographed. And we understand that sometimes it's a little bit more difficult to get artwork professionally photographed, but it's certainly helpful if you can do that. A single image, professionally shot or professionally represented, really goes a long way. As you can see in the right, sometimes a professional photographer may request that you provide credit to them as the photographer of the artwork. So that's something that you would potentially include as well. Here is an example of what not to do. As you can see in this image, the artwork is blurry and the background is pretty distracting. So one thing to keep in mind is when you're looking at these images, you really want the artwork to be in focus and the central feature of what the selection panel is considering. Having them distracted by busy backgrounds or other information that doesn't specifically relate to the artwork might not be the best way to present your best foot forward there with that. And another example is how the collaged image effect really can be a little bit distracting. I know sometimes artists really want to demonstrate the different visual or perspectives of the artwork, and there are opportunities to do that, but really just focusing on a single image at a time allows the selection panel view to be really curated to focus on the artwork. It's a lot less distracting. And another thing to avoid is actually including text in the images. Again, we just want to focus on that artwork specifically and in the best way possible. So at that point, I'm going to go ahead and open up the conversation to questions. You'll also note on this slide, we do have the email for Romeo Reposo here. So if after this meeting, you happen to think of a question that you weren't able to ask during the meeting, we invite you to email those questions directly to Romeo. Be sure to do that before December 2nd at 12 p.m. Otherwise, at this point, we'll go ahead and open the floor to hear your questions. And again, note, once we're done with this, we will then focus on how to apply using publicartist.org. So with that, I'll go ahead and open it up for questions. Mac?
Katina, can you hear me?
Sure can.
Thank you so much. I had a question regarding the artist submission materials. If I wanted to submit a portfolio example of, say, like a 16-page book or of a community collaboration where children and community members are actively participating, do you recommend that we just show the finished product, or that we show something that when the work is in use with community?
That sounds like a wonderful project, actually. So I think as a whole, you could show the finished product, but within these applications, there's an opportunity to provide the descriptive information about the specifics of the project. Carrie, would you like to talk more about that process from the side and perspective of publicartist.org?
Yeah, can you all hear me okay? I know I was having some sound issues before.
Yes.
Okay, great. Yeah, in publicartist.org, we'll go over this in more detail. There is an opportunity to include a description of whatever image you're sharing. But I would encourage you, if there's a project that you're submitting where interaction with the community really activates the piece, you absolutely include pictures like that to show how that's being used. That's perfectly fine. And you just have to sort of divvy that up amongst your 10 max photos. But again, if that's really kind of critical to the work itself, it's definitely acceptable to include that.
Right. And just riffing off of that, the descriptions for the images really can be an opportunity to highlight something specific. For instance, this project really focused on community collaboration and interacting with community members. That's definitely something you'd want to mention. So just keep in mind that specific criteria that we went over and the opportunity, and try to really curate those images to the opportunity. Any other questions?
Hi, I have a question about submitting proposals. Are you referring to proposals for this project or these projects, or past proposals?
So I'll try my best based on my understanding of what you're asking. So for this specific opportunity, you can include artwork or finished work, or even proposal ideas that may not have come to fruition for consideration as a part of your application, which, should you be selected as a finalist through this process, then your application will be added to essentially a pool of artists, which will be then used to be considered for future opportunities related to these park projects. Does that answer your question?
I think so. I think I interpreted it correctly then. We're just not supposed to be submitting proposals for this particular set of projects.
Yes, so
Okay.
at this time, we're not asking you to do any work. We are just looking for you to provide examples. And then should you be selected, then we will hire you, pay you, and work with you to develop those concepts as a team.
Great, thank you.
And let's see, Adrian, it looks like you have your hand raised.
Yes. Hi, Katina. So I have
Hi.
2 questions. One being, when you say 2D, that's pretty much a mural, correct?
It could be, but not necessarily. So for example, some of the project specifications will be curated towards, say, a mural or a tile mosaic, but applications that could be translatable, for instance, could be fiber art. A fiber art image could be translated to a mosaic. A printmaking image could be translated to a laser cut metal fence design. So there are opportunities within public art for two-dimensional artists to translate that artwork to metal fabrication or otherwise.
Okay. And then my other question is, if chosen for one of these projects, can we make a suggestion where we want to go, or do you assign us to one of these park projects if selected?
I would say that if there's certain areas that you're specifically interested in, you can mention that in your application. But keep in mind, it is helpful sometimes to be open to different opportunities, because potentially selection panel members or otherwise may see something in your portfolio that could result in a really beneficial opportunity for you. So it definitely doesn't hurt to play to your strengths and to mention that in the application information. It's good to really state very clearly where you're interested in heading and what you can bring to the table.
Okay, thank you.
And Cantina, I would just add to that, it's definitely a collaborative process with the Parks Department once the artist is selected. There may be some areas where we're really looking to focus the work, but there's definitely a conversation that happens, and certainly the artist can bring their recommendations and visions to that conversation as well.
Thank you, Carrie. Any other questions?
Hi, another question. How much is the residency of being in the state a factor? How much is that weighted?
Well, currently we really don't discriminate against geographical location. I'd say that depending on the selection panel, local artists may be a priority at times, but for this specific project, it really is open to everyone. So whether or not you're local, anyone can apply, and we cannot specifically discriminate based on location.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, great. With that, I'll go ahead and share my screen again, and we'll keep going. And real quick, again, if you do think of any questions outside of this meeting, feel free to email them to romeo.rebusa@phoenix.gov. And with that, Carrie will go ahead and to begin walking us through the process of how to submit an application.
Okay, great. Well, if some of you have applied to our projects in the past, you may be more familiar with callforentry.org or CAFE. This time around, we are using publicartist.org. It's a similar type of program. It's pretty intuitive, but we definitely wanted to take a moment to walk through this process to just kind of give you a heads up of what to look for. So when you go to publicartist.org, you will see this landing page. On the top right in the black square is where you would log in. Accounts are free. I believe they do have a paid subscription, but you don't need to have that to apply to any of our calls. Once you do have an account, you can click on the hot links that are on the bottom left of the screen here. These are all the different opportunities that are available through publicartist.org. And I've highlighted here the opportunity that we are talking about today. Next slide. So when you click on that, you will get this screen. And here is where you're seeing the call details. So if you were live online, you could scroll through this page and you would see all of the aspects and details of the call. There's also a link to the full request for qualifications document. As Katina mentioned, it's also on our website at phoenix.gov/arts, so you can get it either way. Once you go through and kind of get yourself ready to apply, you'll click the apply button at the top left. And then next slide. You will get to this screen. And so here you have a couple of different ways to enter your information. You can either copy and paste your text into the text box, or you also have the option to upload a PDF document. So it's really whatever your preference is. As you go through the application, you can save, which is great. So if you need to come back to the application at another time, that's totally fine. Just make sure you save it. And then once you're done, you scroll all the way down to the bottom. You've got everything uploaded and ready to go. Don't forget to hit submit. Next slide. And here I just wanted to share, if you're in that screen to enter all your application information, you scroll down to the image area. This is what you'll see. You are able to upload a portfolio into your account. You don't have to do that, but you can do that. Either way, if you're pulling from your online account with Public Artist or just your files on your computer, those images will get uploaded into the bottom left of the screen here. And then on the bottom right, Katina mentioned descriptions for the artwork. This is where you would enter that information. Here we go. So you can get a little bit more detail with what the project is and all the different aspects of that project. So these are really important details that the selection panel will be looking at. Of course, images are very important, but also the details are as well. We'll be going through all of that as we go through the selection process. So just keep that in mind. This is your opportunity to really go into a lot more detail about each individual artwork that you submit. Next slide. And then I just wanted to make a point to say as well that the website does have a FAQ page. There's a lot of really great useful information there that you can scroll through, and hopefully that would help you get through your questions. Certainly you can reach out to us as well if you have any technical questions. And also publicartist.org is really good at responding to inquiries as well. So you can reach them via email or via phone, and their hours are 9 to 5 Central Time. And so if you run into any sort of technical issues uploading images or submitting your application, if you don't get a notification that it was accepted, that type of thing, you can certainly reach out to them. And as well, we're available to help you as well. But just wanted to make sure that you knew there was an online resource through publicartist.org itself. And I believe that's the last slide for Public Artists. Yes. So again, we will open it up to any additional questions if you have them about publicartist.org, or if anything else has come to mind. I want to be sure to capture those questions here if you've got them.
Yes, I have a question.
Yes, go ahead.
Is there a date limit for the images, let's say 2 years, 3 years, 10 years, that you, from when, let's say an example project you did in the past, and you want to submit that image? Is there a date limit for how long ago that project took place?
Yeah, there is no limit. You definitely want to submit the projects that are most relevant for this opportunity. However, we do want to see that you do have some contemporary works as well. So just kind of finding that mix between perhaps older projects and newer projects, whatever is best suited for this opportunity. But we don't put any sort of limit on how old a project could be.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
Mac Love here with one more. I was curious if we wanted, would you like us to include any testimonials about our work? And if so, where would you like those to be included?
Yeah, we don't have that part of the application at this time. We're just requesting the letter of intent, which is sort of, your letter of interest for the opportunities as well as your images and resume. So at this point, we don't have that as part of the application process. But you certainly could make reference to, projects that you've completed, or if there's a quote that you wanted to include in your letter of intent referencing that work, you certainly could do that.
Thank you.
Excellent, thank you. Lots of really good questions. We really appreciate that. Any other questions before we shuffle off? Excellent. All right, Carrie, do you want to close the meeting?
Sure. We'll just want to say thank you again. Thank you to our partners with the Parks Department joining in. Like Katina said, if there are any other questions that come up as you're going through the application, please feel free to reach out to Romeo. We look forward to seeing all of your applications and working on these great park projects going forward. So again, thank you very much and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you.